Welcome to Oracle Eyes. Very hot developments are taking place on the Black Sea front of the war between Ukraine and Russia. With the Russian Navy's re-blockade of civilian and commercial ships in the Black Sea and withdrawal from the grain agreement, Ukraine and its friends took action. Especially Turkey and Romania have made serious strides to ensure the security of the Black Sea. Russia became more aggressive as the Russian Navy was seriously injured in the Black Sea by Ukrainian forces. Russian missiles began hitting Ukrainian ports in and around Odessa and destroying granaries. While this situation is slowly dragging the world into a food crisis, huge explosions occurred in Turkey's big Turkish commercial port in the Marmara Sea the other day. The explosion that occurred while unloading the grain from the ship from Russia raised many questions. The possibility of sabotage is being investigated in all details. Images are from the explosion that occurred in a port about 85 miles east of Istanbul and injured 12 people. In Kocaeli, the explosion in the warehouse of Turkish grain board in Derince Harbor was felt in many parts of the city. After the incident, health, search and rescue, and firefighting teams were quickly dispatched to the region. The explosion, which was felt with a loud noise, took place within an area of 25 meters. While the cause of the explosion in the port is not yet known, residents of the neighborhood reported that their houses were shaking and thick black smoke was rising from miles away. In the area where there are nearly 40 silos belonging to the Turkish grain board, 2 of them exploded and about 3 silos were damaged. According to the first determination, it was learned that one of the wheat silos exploded. It was stated that the explosion that occurred in the silos of the Turkish grain board was allegedly caused by the interaction of chemical substances. It is not yet clear whether the explosion, which is stated to be caused by wheat powder compression, is due to gas compression. A technical investigation regarding the explosion is initiated and necessary studies are carried out. The Ministry of Transport said that no ships were affected, but the presidential administration said that of the 75,000 metric tons of grain loaded into the silos, 20% or about 15,000 metric tons were damaged. After the explosion, the possibility of sabotage came to mind. It has been learned that due to the high yield this year, the grain was unloaded from the grain ship that came from Russia in the warehouse, where the grain was also purchased from the domestic market. It was stated that the product affected by the explosion was around 20% of the product in the warehouse. It was also stated that the product is the product of this year. After the investigations, it will be clear whether the explosions in the port, where the security measures are at the highest level, can be intervened from the inside. On the other hand, Andriy Yusov, spokesperson of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, confused the minds with his statement. According to Yusov, the possible role of the Russian Federation in the explosion at the Turkish port should be investigated in depth. Ankara, which followed a policy of balance between NATO and Russia for a long time, first supported Ukraine's NATO membership and then handed over the Azov commanders to Ukraine, negatively affecting relations with Russia. In fact, according to official sources in the Kremlin, Russia-Turkey relations have been characterized by great tension due to President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's decisions that no one expected in Russia. These Ukrainian commanders were captured by the Russians during the defense of the homeland in Mariupol and brought to Turkey as part of the exchange of detainees, on the condition that they stay in Turkey until the end of the war, although the Russian side reacted to their return to Ukraine. The representative of the Ukrainian GUR said it's important to analyze how Putin's Russia is connected to this event. Andriy Yusov noted that just before Russian President Vladimir Putin's planned visit to discuss the grain corridor issue, an elevator explosion in a Turkish port looked very strange. Such an event is occurring as Turkey actively raises the important issue of this need to maintain the global supply of Ukrainian grain. Yusov believes that this could not have been an accident. It was noted that the explosion may eventually prompt market players to consider issues related to grain storage and transportation infrastructure. It is stated that the loss of 15,000 metric tons of grain as a result of the explosion in Turkey's Derince port will not affect global grain prices alone, but may cause panic due to more risks. Experts noted the existence of risks to the infrastructure. This can create a sense of panic among manufacturers and supply chain participants, which could affect global prices. As you may recall, an agreement was reached last year with Turkey's diplomatic efforts to resolve the food crisis due to the Russia-Ukraine war. This year, Russia withdrew from the agreement, announcing that the Grain Corridor Agreement would no longer be in effect and that they would not return to the agreement unless the conditions they put forward were met. Making statements after the recent developments, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that Russia's return to the critical agreement depends on Western countries fulfilling their responsibilities. Erdogan underlined that the revival of a vital Black Sea grain agreement that allows Ukrainian grain to reach world markets depends on Western capitals fulfilling their responsibilities. Erdogan said his country will continue to engage with relevant parties to revive the agreement with which Russia withdrew on July 17th. Undoubtedly, resolving this dilemma without further complicating depends on Western countries fulfilling their promises. Stating that in the past, unfortunately, the principle of agreements must be followed, Erdogan said that no diplomatic steps were taken to turn the positive atmosphere created by the Black Sea Initiative into a ceasefire and then a lasting peace. Russia has persistently refused to extend the key deal brokered by Turkey and the United Nations after it expired last month. Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which allows Ukrainian foodstuffs, primarily grains, to reach world markets, has caused global grain prices to skyrocket, amid international warnings of an impending food crisis and even a potential famine. The continuation of the Black Sea Grain Initiative is critical. The revival of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which was interrupted by the withdrawal of Russia, is important for the stability of global food prices and especially for poorer countries' access to food. President Erdogan insistently draws attention to the fact that the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which he considers as a bridge of peace, to be disabled for a long time does not benefit anyone, and that the countries in need of grain and low income will suffer the most. Despite the negotiations, uncertainties regarding the renewal of the initiative persist, and the current cut risks instability in the markets and negative impact on humanitarian aid. On the other hand, the U.S. State Department said that the U.S. is pleased with Turkey's pressure on Russia to return to the Black Sea Grain Agreement. When asked about Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to Turkey in August, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller replied that I would not talk about the visit, except to say that we welcome Turkey's role in forcing Russia to rejoin the Black Sea Grain Initiative. Miller said about Turkey's role in the grain initiative, they were very constructive in helping to reach an agreement for this initiative from the very beginning, and in persuading Russia to continue the initiative. The ministry spokesperson expressed his wish for Turkey to continue its productive role in the continuation of the grain agreement. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan agreed in their last phone call last Wednesday that the Russian president will visit Turkey in August. The two leaders reached such an agreement as a prelude to resolving two main contentious issues. The critical visit signaled that the Kremlin could return to the Grain Corridor Agreement brokered by Turkey and the United Nations. The U.S. envoy to the United Nations said there were signs that Russia might want to return to the grain deal talks, but gave no further details. While the date of Putin's visit has not been clarified yet, if he comes to Turkey, this visit will be Putin's first visit to a NATO country after the invasion of Ukraine that started on February 24, 2022. Thanks for watching us.